first page, contents?
Yeah, so you've got, this is just the contents of the folder. So we've got transaction process flow, a demo, I printed out a demo as is contract. We got a project tracking sheet, an announcement sheet, email, inspections, commission, disbursement, earnest money deposit. So basically, now, some of you guys went to the what was it, the title company put a show on, right, for close, right? There are certain things that we need to keep an eye on. All of the items that we're gonna look at are tied to the contract. So I'll be able to show you that in quick order. So basically, let's pull up the, let's see, the number one, transaction management process flow. I don't want to go away. So this computer needs to be updated. So basically, I outline the process like this. So you've got your schedule. We're going to do a process tracking sheet once you have the contract. So we've got a contract, it's all signed, sealed, and delivered. Now what do I do, right? So we're going to announce it. We're going to do a process, we're going to do a tracking sheet, and then we're going to do the announcement, handle inspections, and all of the other things in here. So this is just an outline here graphically, and page 2 is the outline of what it would look like in text.
Okay.
All right. So that's just informational. Contract tracking. Boom. So I'm not going to bring up the as-is contract on the screen. It's in the folder,
Yeah.
and it's here actually in your folder that you undid. So I'm going to bring up the Excel file. The Excel file has the information we want in it. Oops. And so what you'll see here, basically, this is our project tracking sheet. So everything you see in blue are items that I normally will edit manually. Everything else in black, I leave it alone. I didn't lock down any of the cells or anything like that, so things can be adjusted, fiddled with, stuff like that. So let's pull up our contract real quick. And I just kept it the simple as is. I didn't include riders or anything like that.
See, my tracking sheet is 4 columns that way.
Well, you have to enable editing.
Yes, enable edit, you'll be fine.
Okay.
All right. So what you see in front of you is at the top the effective date of the contract, and on the far left, so far as I've checked it against the most recent contract, because they do put out new ones, on the far left, you want to keep an eye on this, is the line that it's associated with in the contract, which is really kind of nice. So once you have a contract, anytime you go over a date, past a date, you don't complete something on time, your seller doesn't, your buyer doesn't, you are technically in breach of contract. That's why we have to pay such close attention to these things. Now, you've got another set of eyes looking at it. Usually the title company is on board with all of the little things and minutia that they need to do. But for us, we want to just make sure that all the key points in our contract are included in here. So in this particular instance, the effective date of contract was April 15th, 2019, and that's line 45. Basically, that's the line we used. Sometimes if you extend it and they sign it a little bit later, and it's going to be of the last signature or the last initial, which means it'll be whenever the last signature was included. From that day forward, now you know right here your date dues of everything that's due in your contract. So let's go down this. Line 29, we have 3 days initial escrow deposit. That means by the 18th that deposit needs to be made. What you want to do is, if you've got the buyer, he's yours, then you want to make sure that he's got all of the title information for wiring. You want to make sure that he knows the date that he needs to be there, and that once he does the deposit, he actually sends you a receipt. Now, he'll get a receipt when he makes the deposit, and the title company, when they receive it, they'll also send out a notice of receipt. So you'll end up with two. One that says he made it and originated it, and the other one that says that the title company actually received it. That goes on record. Matter of fact, I usually download those as a PDF and upload them and keep them in my .loop file.
You just update it as that.
Yes, and then just update it here. If he does it same day or next day, that's the day completed. You want to make sure you plug that information in. Next one here is his financial application. So he's got, according to line 91, he's got 5 days to actually make sure he's applied. Now, you've already sent in a pre-qualification letter with him, so basically they've already started the process. What he's going to make sure he does is go in, make the process official. Here's the property, here's the loan, here's what I'm doing, all of that. Line 150, that's the title policy, if available. That's when it needs to be provided to the title company. I have it in here because it's in the contract, but title companies usually pretty good about chasing that stuff down. Also, any surveys, if applicable, title closing information, things of that sort. You'll see in here also there's some interim lines. They're in very light gray in the Excel sheet because sometimes they apply, sometimes they don't. You might have a seller with a lease, and so information of the lease has to be provided in a certain amount of time. According to lines 71 and 73, they have to provide copies of the written lease if applicable, and the buyer gets to review and accept or deny the lease. I also threw in here, this was something that got left over, but I had a client, a seller who had 2 lots. He was selling them as one, and so we actually had to go through the county and unify the title, the 2 pieces, the 2 titles into one to make it one. So I included that in here too. We added some extra time for that.
So it's not like you're buying 2 houses, it's buying 1.
Well, right. So a lot of times somebody will buy. I had a real estate agent in here a couple of weeks ago. They had a handful of properties. It was like a block, and they were all individual. She just wanted to sell them all as one. So you can make it as one with 5 blocks and then sell them. There's 5 different titles. The process is different. Or if they were going to sell them, if somebody wanted a unified double lot to put my trailer on, then they could actually they'll have the 2 titles, but they can unify them, put them together under one title. Unless somewhere down the road they expect to sell that second lot off or something like that. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard process. In this case, on line 249, which is section 12, which is our property inspection right to cancel, we had 10 days. So it's just let you know that inspection needs to be completed. Your right to cancel is due. It gives you that date. This comes up right in front of you. Every morning you pull this up. Where am I on my calendar? Where am I on my deliverables? Do I need to make phone calls? I see a lot of agents, once the contract's signed, they put it aside and they're off to the next thing. What ends up happening is, somebody drops the ball. Next thing you know, they're either delaying or the whole contract gets blown up, canceled, because they can keep their eye on it. This is your way of making sure that your customer's getting quality service. Going through these steps, when you get to closing and your customer looks at you and goes, geez, that was easy, and you ran around 6 ways to Tuesday trying to make sure everybody got their stuff. Oh yeah, so-and-so didn't get their HOA docs, and you're chasing that stuff down and this, and your client's sitting back. It's a challenge to make it easy for the customer. This is part of the process. Very simple.
Can we put this into home calendars, like what is
Sure, you can create your own. Absolutely, you can create your own calendar. Yeah, you can create a project calendar on your own. Absolutely. Fill it in, fill it out. You can have one calendar for multiple customers.
I have a Google calendar, so I would just need to I would need to go and put the dates in
Mm-hmm.
into that. It
Yep.
doesn't do anything.
No, matter of fact, you can punch in your numbers here, take the dates, and then just go ahead and fill in your calendar with all of these numbers. This is just a tool.
Yeah,
This is just something to kind of help you to keep track of things.
yeah.
That's all it's for. Use it as much or as little as you want. Inspection, right of cancel. So we're tracking those things. Title insurance, right? We got a commitment, line 145. We got 15 days to get that title insurance. That's usually something the title company chases down. So it's a call to your title agent. If you had any luck, especially if your guy's the seller, and maybe they didn't get any feedback from the seller, maybe he's been out, but you know where he is, and you can get in touch with him. So you're following up. See, this works both ways for your buyer and your seller. Whatever the contract is, this is it. These are all the lines in the contract, whatever side you're managing. So this helps you to manage both ends of it. Flood zone evaluation is in there. That's usually something that title digs up as well. And then the deadline. It's 15 days. Now, some of these are 15 days from start date or 15 days before closing. So you go in, you want to know what your contract is. Loan approval, 30 days. Standard is what we put in. Sometimes, if they're VA, they might be 45 a day or a little bit longer. So that's just something you need to include in here, which means you're not closing in 30 days, you're closing in 45 days, and your numbers should reflect that as well. And then your final walkthrough. Closing date in this case was May 30th. Final walkthrough is the day before. And delivery, possession. Now at the bottom of this, as you're going through this, I added some of my own personal notes that there's a home warranty line on 174. But, you're talking to your buyer, does he have homeowner's insurance? Was there a seller's disclosure? These are notes I kept for myself, I just never deleted them out of the form. Sinkhole disclosure, do you have one of those? If you have a seller's disclosure, sinkhole's already included in there. Something else you need to be concerned with. Toward the end, you've got to have your commission disbursement letter. It's easy now. There's two ways you can get paid. They can write a Maritima check. The check gets mailed. They deposit it. Several days later, they cut you a check, give you a call, say your check's ready. With the disbursement letter, you get it all prearranged, and you get paid at closing. Yeah, okay. And we'll discuss that too. Don't forget, change your active to pending. If it's your listing, you go into contract. So there's kind of a debate on this. They teach it where you go into contract, you set it to pending. What I have learned from experience, and most agents will do, is they don't set it to pending until they've actually received escrow. There's too many times you're under contract, you set it to pending, 3 days go by, 4, 5, nothing, they've gone quiet, and you just hung up your property for several days for nothing. So once you get escrow, the contract's sealed, go in, set it to pending. And your buyer, does he need insurance? Anything else that he might need, can help him out with. And one thing I didn't put in here that I would add, make sure you get all of for your buyer, even for your seller. The seller needs to get all the information for utilities together as well. So that's actually something that I want to add.
I just added it to that line.
Yeah, well, that's your copy
Insurance
now,
and
so.
utilities.
So, right, you can actually do, utilities. So you got the closing coming up, you gotta make sure your buyer has enough time to go in, set up an account, set the date, as of this date, it's my property, and I'm gonna need
So at
that.
what day would we do that?
A week before closing.
A week before?
Just roughly a week, 3 days, tops. You want to make sure, if you've had some hang-ups and you've had to extend a couple of times, then, you might want to, hold off. But, you can get the utilities as soon as possible. Until he knows for a fact that everything's clear, then he wants to go ahead and make, so you can get that information really anytime. There's a second sheet on here called a project announcement schedule. What it is, it's a watered down version of the one we just looked at.
Okay.
Just the big highlights. And by the way, if you fill out the one, these will auto-populate. So you should be able to just go in and grab this. And I'll show you what we're going to do with it here pretty soon. So that's our tracking sheet. Again, the project tab is your project. That's how you're going to track your contract. And there's a lot of things you can do to it to make it your own. Add things to it, beautify it, change colors, however you like it. The second sheet, project announcement, that's what you're going to cut and paste into your announcement. Okay, your contract announcement. Hey, we're under contract. So that's number 3. So this is typical email. Subject, congratulations, we're under contract. You want to send it to all the agents. So if you have co-agents, that happens. Finance, title, and your customer. Don't ever email it to the agent's customer. So when you email out, let's say your contract is signed, sealed, and delivered. I get it. I email it out to everybody. I email it out here to the co-agent. If I get a co-agent, I email it to copy them, the buyer's or seller's agent, finance company, title company, and your customer. So, and then let the other agent communicate with his customer, and that's fine. Summary below. So title company is going to want to know this basic information. Here's the address. Here's our closing date, on or before. Here's the seller's name. Here's the seller's agent. And any other information, phone number, email address, all of that. Title company is going to want to get right out to the seller and the buyer. They're going to have questions and things. They're going to need forms. They're going to have to fill out all of that stuff. So all of this information goes right in. The buyer, buyer's agent, commission. Let them know it's going to be commission on this, 3% each side. You can usually tell, especially if it's your listing, you know, but 99 times out of 100, if you see 3% to you, chances are it's a 3-3. If this is wrong, the other agent, he'll correct you. And then put in your buyer-seller being charged. I've already updated this. This is the $5.95 Ameriteam brokerage for our customers. Now, you might have gotten the email from Alan. He just sent it out today. Basically, it used to be you charge your customer $2.95 and you pay $2.95 plus 50 E&O. So Ameriteam collected that money as a whole. It just came from different places. We found a lot of clients just passing the whole buck to the customer, which is fine.
A lot of agents.
A lot of agents will do that. They'll charge the full, $640 or whatever to the customer. I have done both. Well, if I know I'm making not a very big commission, I would charge the full fee to my customer, and I let them know, and I update the paperwork accordingly. On the larger ones where I've had to negotiate, they were like, especially on listings, I don't want to pay that. It's like, you know what? They're giving me the listing. I'm getting 2.5%, 3%, so I'll go ahead and eat it. It's totally up to you. It's still fully negotiable. You can talk to your client and go, you know what? $5.95. I'm going to cover half. And then you're a star in their eyes. It's what I do for my clients. I'm going to cover half. That's totally up to you. And then this is a cut and paste of that schedule that we had. So that's the highlighted schedule there. So I actually will go copy, paste that right in the email. All of this stuff goes right directly in an email and off to the team.
So they know exactly when it's due.
Right? Yeah.
So they can't
Escrow
get
money
it.
deposits due, inspection period, here's your right to cancel, here's your dates, everything, bam. So these are the key points. You don't want to send them out that huge one that we're tracking. It's overwhelming. These are the key points that people are going to get hit on mostly. Any questions so far?
No, it's good.
All right.
Have you done any? Have you gone through this before already? No.
So your customer, if you have a buyer, who do I get to inspect? So this is, you will probably get to know through the industry as you might get to know other people, but these are inspectors that I've used personally, and this is the entire email minus that note in the bottom, up above, dear customer, and then down to the list of list of inspectors, but here it is. Here's a list of home inspectors we are familiar with. You may choose these or any other source if you prefer. We're not pushing these. We don't have a relationship with these guys. These are people that I've worked with, I had good experience with. And then instructions. So when you're telling your buyer to order inspections, it's important to consider the requirements of your lender and your insurance company. Now, you've got people who pay cash, they don't give a crap about whatever. They just want it, they're going to fix it up, they're going to do what they do and move forward. Lenders, insurance companies might require an additional to standard inspection. Include inspections for WDOs, wood destroying organisms. It's highly recommended anyway. You want to recommend it anyways, but this is what you give your customer. They're going to read this. And a 4-point report and wind mitigation report for the insurance. Insurance is going to want a 4-point.
So would the one inspector do both?
They'll do it all.
The wind?
Wind mitigation, the 4-point, the WDO. Now, here's what I do. When setting up your appointment with the inspector, it's a good strategy to ask that they do the inspection simply in a way that if the other reports are needed, they can actually put the reports together at a later time. So, basically, you hire inspectors. I need a basic inspection, but I don't think they can come back for the WDO, but for the wind mitigation and the 4-point, they don't have to come back. They'll take extra pictures and include it in their notes, but you're paying for the report. So they'll give your customer the inspection report. And if it's good and they want to move forward, the insurance company says, yeah, did you get your 4-point? Now the customer can call back and go, I need that 4-point. And they just tack it on. They don't have to go
Okay,
back.
but they don't send you to another inspector altogether?
No, use one. These guys
Okay.
will do, these guys, most will do all of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. J&P Home Inspections, BGP, these are firms that contract out, as well as USA Home. So,
Should that be saying Derryberry?
it actually is Rob Derryberry and, yeah, Jack
Okay.
Hill, yeah, that. So, don't make fun of him, he's a great guy.
How do you say his last name? Jack what? Halderdick.
Heldick. I'll have to check the spelling on that.
Okay, yes. Please do.
But I'm pretty sure it's close.
We do. Well, if you can just copy and paste this to our customers.
So, okay,
Quick question.
yeah,
For the inspection, it's always good for us to be there,
I
right?
highly recommend it. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I invite my clients, so if you're representing the buyer and you set up the inspection, if you can at all, be there and invite your client to be there with you. Now, it's 3 to 4 hours, depending on the size of the house, sometimes 2.5 on a smaller house, so be prepared to sit around.
So if there's any comeback later, like, say you're representing the seller and the buyer's there with with the inspector and their agent. But if there's any comeback, if you know stuff and it's not disclosed or whatever, and like later, I mean, anything taken out of context and legal and then you're called in.
No,
for legal
no,
case.
because you're there representing your buyer.
Okay.
So the buyer is purchasing the home inspection. It's their product, they bought it. Now, this is what I have done. A home inspection will cost anywhere from $250 to $500, depending on the size of the
Should we
house.
say that in the letter?
No, don't put prices in the letter.
Okay,
Let them find out.
okay.
Because it depends on the size of the house, the reports that they order,
Okay.
and they all vary. So, what I have done, let's say it fails inspection. Let's say your buyers have found a few things that just it was not good. You have, let's say they don't want to go through with the sale. We just absolutely don't want it. Now, what you can do is you can go through and you can talk to the seller's agent and say, look, we're not going forward. We find a lot of problems, and we just spent $350 on a full report. If your client's willing to subsidize some of that, we'll share the report with you. A lot of times they will. You'll get a couple of $100 bucks back for your client. I usually charge half. So for $300-400, you're looking at $150-200, you'll get a check back for your client. It helps soften the blow. Now, if you're going to use the report to try and get concessions, in other words, we found a few things that need fixing. So we need them either fixed or we need money back so we can get them fixed. You put a valuation on that. There's a whole bunch of ways you can go upon inspection. It's totally up to you and what your clients. Remember, everything in a contract, everything in a deal is negotiable. So just because, and I usually tell my customers too, I educate them right up front. This isn't a pass-fail. It's a discovery. So they discover things. Either you live with them or you can't live with them, or they're really so bad you really need to get them fixed, and that you make those judgments along the way. But no house ever fails an inspection. It's just a discovery of items. And that's what you need to, because buyers really freaked out, just depending on what they find. And so you just got to be, and that's another reason you want to be with them. You coach them through it. They see everything. Most inspectors will just quietly go through their inspection. At the end, we'll take you on a tour of any of the big things that they found, which is really kind of nice. Then you get the written report, and you already know what you're reading. So I definitely recommend it. Here's a form letter I threw together. I didn't even put a header on top of it. If your customer is looking for assistance, we've got a lot of associations. We've got movers. We work with Flagler Insurance as well. This is just insurance, Flagler, number 5. So they'll do a quote for them. And we do have an association with them, and that is documented. And so we just want to be able to help our customers. If you have home insurance, most of them go, yeah, I called Geico. They do my auto insurance, and now I'm getting my house, and I'm going to get a break on everything. Great.
I actually use them for my insurance, and
Yeah, absolutely.
a better discount than what I had.
Number 6. So this, the all-important. I did not fill this out, but this is a copy, and this should be, when you do your template, you'll see a copy of this in your dot loop. This is your commission disbursement letter. This is what you fill out and hand to Carmen, and to get Alan to sign so that you can get paid at closing. Now, I'm going to say this because we're setting a policy. We've had a lot, I've seen Carmen run around and do a lot of stuff because these things were filled out wrong. And I'll say this, I spoke to Alan about it. I'm speaking to you too. Everybody on film, everybody's watching this. The worst that can happen is if this is messed up, they're gonna send a Maritime the lump sum commission check, and you'll get paid multiple days later. So it's not a matter of not getting paid, it's just going to be delayed. So I'm going to tell you right now, focus on getting this right. Check your math, check your information, because if any of it's wrong, you're not going to get paid at closing. It's too much. Everybody needs to make sure that they do their due diligence and just make sure. Look, very basic. Date, title company, their phone number, fax number, title agent, property address, the buyer's name, seller's names, selling price. Total commission, yours, not the other guys. So you're getting 3%, 2.5%, whatever that works out to be, and the amount, and then disperse it accordingly. Now, sometimes you split it if you have a partner or something like that. A piece of it goes to you, a piece of it goes to somebody else. And so you put your amounts in here. Now, there's another box in here too. You can say like check. I'll take a check, or some title companies will do direct deposit. And then the last here is a brokerage commission and other. So this is where that $640 would go, and this is where it would come from. So in the past, $295 comes from the commission, $295 comes from the seller, and $50 comes from the commission. So you would add those up, right? So that tells the title company to take so much money from the commission and so much money from, which some of it will show up on the Alta statement. So if there's a $295 brokerage fee, or in this case a $595 brokerage fee, that's going to be on the Alta statement. So it's going to be $595 from the seller or buyer, from your customer, $50 from you, from your commission. Other things will go in here too. If you have OpCity, there'll be a percentage, there'll be a chunk of this money going off to Op City too. It's 30, if it's under 150,000, it's 30, if it's over, it could be 35%. So you'll get this signed and sealed, and what I did was I put this together, which is another level of detail to show where the money is going. So for instance, all of that I detail out on the second page when I deliver this to title. Maritime Realty will get a check in the amount of, mail to. If you have now, I left in here real estate services. I actually hired, in some instances, I hired a transaction manager to track it. They'll charge you between $250 and $350, depending on the agency you work with. Op City, if you got to mail money to them, actually that ends up getting sent here, and they send it out from here. Fast Expert's another one. And then to me, hey, but me, I want mine wired. So in the amount, I take the amount. This is my wire, put my account information, the routing information, all that. And I add that when I send the direct commission letter. Now, Carmen will send the direct commission letter directly to the title company. Make sure you guys get a copy, and you send it too. You send it too, in addition to that disbursement letter, and always in PDF. So you take your disbursement letter, you fill it in, and you print a PDF or save it to PDF. That way nobody's editing your stuff. And I will tell you, more and more people, I should say fewer and fewer people are actually doing direct deposit, but ours still does, and several do. It's the law firms generally will not. So any title company is attached to a law firm generally will not do, and they'll just write you a check. You go to closing, collect your check, and go right to the bank, whatever you want to do. Now the last item here I threw on, which I had at the very beginning, but it really isn't part of the tracking process. This is just a neat little tool I put together. So when you're doing page 1, I wanted to throw that in here because I use it all the time. Keeps me honest, and I don't have to worry about my math being screwed up. So if you go to page 1 as your as-is contract, you're going to see that your clients are offering $228,000, and that they're putting $2,500 down. And it's FHA, so it's 3% down payment. And this calculates the rest of it out. So now you got to fill in, line 38. So you fill in your 221,160, and then the due at closing, which is really a 3% down payment minus the $2,500 you already put on escrow. It's just a neat little tool. I included in there. Off to the right were just some notes I had. These are specific to an individual client that I had. They were eligible for lender credits. They were getting, they had a certain amount of out-of-pocket they needed, and the down payments that get asked for. FHA for seller concessions, which is what I have, that little block in the middle, concessions you can ask for when you're doing a particular offer. So if you've got a buyer that's a little cash poor, you can actually ask the seller to assist in concessions and ask them to pay. And you'll see it in the notes here too, because this one in the contract under additional terms, you'll see we ask for the seller agrees to credit buyer 3% of purchase price toward closing costs.
Does that happen often?
I do it almost all the time. The worst they can say is no. And if they say yes, then you just saved your buyer a few grand.
You look good in front of the buyers.
Right? Ask for it. Now, I've had instances where, the house was priced, it was a prime piece of property. It was priced right, there was a bidding war. And, if you ask for a certain amount of money, that's going to be off of their bottom line, right? So now 3% here for a $228,000 house was $6,800. Now, what I have done is I've offered more. So you can offer a little bit more and split the difference, right? So now it's not, they're offering more, but they're asking for 3%. So you can actually make that work to your advantage a little bit. It helps out. There's a lot of things you can go to negotiate. But this little tool, when I'm filling out page 1, I pull this thing up, I put in my purchase. Initial deposit, recommend always 1%, right around. In this case, they offered the 2,500, which is a little over 1%. And then cash, if it's a cash deal, 2 to 3%. Yeah, usually people will ask for $3,000 to $5,000 down on a cash deal because they want to make sure people are more serious about what they're doing. And the rest is history. So this is it. Really go back to in the process flow, which I included. It's one transaction management process. So you can see now as we go through the process, we've got our schedule, we did the tracking worksheet in accordance with the line items in our contract. We sent out the announcement, then we do the inspection. So I kind of broke down in this, in the process, the inspection list, setting up and attending the inspection, reviewing, advising over the results of the inspection, renegotiate if necessary. EMD, within 3 days, get a receipt from the bank, from the title company. Other key items, your HOA docs, make sure you get those. Lender appraisal, they'll usually order those, just be aware of it. On rare occasions, I have been there for the appraisal too. Usually if I needed to open up the property for some reason. Get the utilities, make sure the title commitment is sound. Do your ALTA review so that once the title and lenders start to finalize the numbers, you're going to get that ALTA statement or the the CD, the closing disclosure. Go through it. Check your numbers. Check your numbers, your offer, what you agreed on. Make sure all those numbers, hold true. They make they're in effect. You got the HOA information, so you want to check the HOA and how they've broken that out, taxes, things like that. And page 2, top of the page, your commission. You want to check that too. Absolutely. So don't be afraid to review it. If you see something a little funny, call and ask. Call the title company. Call the lender. It's like, I'm seeing something. This isn't right. It could be anything, especially if you're close to the contract. If you're close to the deal, you're having all of a sudden something will jump out at you, and you go, yeah, this isn't right. They can miscalculate anything, put something in wrong, or they'll have an explanation. It's like, oh no, this is what this is all about. Oh, okay, that's fine. Closing, setting up the closing. So, so you're coming to the end, you got clear to close, you got to get in touch with the title company, because the buyer and seller now they don't have to be there together anymore. So you want to talk to your seller ahead of time and go, hey, looks like we're going to close on time on Thursday. What's a good time? 2 in the afternoon, 10 in the morning, what works. 3 o'clock? Okay, 3. So you call a title company. Can we get 3 o'clock? And usually have 2 or 3 slots for your first, second, and third choice from your buyer, from your customer. Call title and go, okay, this day, what do you got open? My clients would love anywhere between 2 and 4. And they'll tell you, it's like, oh yeah, we could do a 3 o'clock. Perfect. Lock it down, notify them, you've set your appointment. And when you go to that closing, either bring your computer, make sure you have internet, or bring hard copies of your contract and your material with you. In case any questions come up, you want everything available to you. I have gone to closings where somebody had a question and I pulled up my ALTA. No, here it is right here. This was the 3rd review, remember? Here, you're CC'd on the email. Just have that information with you. You're there to support your customers, but you don't want your customers coming to the end going, I don't remember seeing that. Here it is. It was emailed. We had this discussion. Oh, yeah, now I remember. And then I didn't put in here, you have to set up the final walkthrough too. That's something I want to add. So on the day before, I like to do it the day before. Do it as close to the closing as you can. If it's an afternoon, I've done the walkthroughs in the morning. You'll also see a final walkthrough form in your template. And that's just kind of walking through the house, making sure nobody punched a hole in the wall, or all of a sudden took out all of the, all
So
the
if you do
kitchen
it in the
stuff.
morning and someone's gone into the house and done stuff in the afternoon,
Take pictures. I've never heard of that happening, but the final walkthrough is generally for that purpose. So I had a customer, and I like to get there early, by the way. I don't like surprises. So I usually get there about an hour early. I've already done my walkthrough, and I got the house all lit up and everything, if the electricity's still on. And then when the customers come in, it's all lit up. It's all, staged, if you will. But you want to look at everything. And if there was anything during the inspection that you agreed to get fixed, you want to make sure that's been fixed as well. So, the loose window was addressed, and I can see they fixed the hole in the ceiling or whatever. They've done what they said they were going to do. Then off to closure you can go. I showed up early, got the key, unlocked it, out of the code box, unlocked it, walked in the house, and I stood there. There were dishes in the sink, there were things on the floor, there was toys. The house was occupied.
Really?
There was a renter in there, and they were destined to move out, but on the day of closing, I called the listing agent. I'm like, this house is still occupied. She says, oh, we can still close and we'll take care of it after. I'm like, no way! So I called my client, and they were already on the road. They were moving. This house was in Putnam County, Palatka, and they were moving from Lakeland. So they had already left in a U-Haul, and they had already left in a U-Haul and a pickup truck. It's the Beverly Hillbillies, I swear. I said, meet me in town. You can't move in. So I found them. They had pets. I found them a pet-friendly hotel, and they put them in over the weekend. And we were able to get things resolved and close on Monday.
so what did you do at that point? Because now obviously he's got extra expenses for the hotel and everything, then they were supposed to close.
Well, I could have really gone to bat, and I talked to the client about it. And after they got finished venting, because I was ready to go to war, I sat down over the weekend and I put a whole chain of events together. I was doing a deposition. I had it in my head. I was going to really go right down somebody's throat on this. And after she got finished venting, I'm on the phone with her. She says, Mr. Dion, I really want this house. And I sat back and I realized it wasn't about me. It wasn't about how angry I was, how pissed off, how unjustified it was. All of it. It really came down to she wanted this house. This was a 62-year-old woman taking care of her 80-year-old mother and her 40-year-old son. All of them were disabled. They bought a house on full disability. And that was through equity. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do it with anybody else. But we got them a house. Little place, little two-bedroom up in Palatka. God bless her. We got her the house. Yeah. So, final walkthrough is important. Post-closing is important too. So, post-closing, I don't have a bullet listed here, but post-closing, you got to mark your MLS as sold. Don't forget to do that, or Alan gets an email going, what's up? And sometimes he'll get nailed with a fine. And he always passes fines along, by the way. So if he gets a fine, you get a fine. So mark your listing MLS. Just double check all your paperwork. Close out and archive your .loop file. You're done. Post-closing too could be sending a housewarming gift to your clients. If you didn't bring something to the closing, send them a housewarming gift. If they got a fixer-upper, get them a Lowe's card or a Home Depot card or something like that. So there's all those post-closing things that you want to make sure, and then you file it away and moving on. And then and I put that separate. Review disclosures, your documents in .loop, signed, sealed, delivered, archive. You're done.
I'd love to get to that point.
Right?